The Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie has just officially released, and I had the opportunity to see it Thursday, December 4th, a day early, and I was mind blown. Understandably, there were a few nitpicks that I did have from the movie, but overall, it was a great movie. When the first movie came out, a lot of people seemed to hate the fact that there wasn't any horror in it, or at least dislike it. But this one definitely delivered in horror, and I'm glad that Blumhouse and Scott Cawthon went with that route. On top of the fact that there were plenty of Easter eggs, which we will dive into later, it mainly geared towards the fans. Let's go ahead and dive into the non-spoiler review first, and then we'll dive into the spoiler review and my honest thoughts. First off, the movie was very fast and had very little time to breathe or room to breathe. I felt like we were going from one scene to the next to the next to the next with very little dialogue or exposition to explain what was going on. While it wasn't all fast-paced, as there were a few scenes here and there that allowed you to have some time to breathe in the movie, it was mainly one thing to the next, and especially once you got halfway through the movie, it was a rapid fire of Succession. I would say the plot is fairly easy to follow, even for non-Fnaf fans, but most people or average viewers would get lost, and overall, I thought as a Fnaf fan, it was just such a good plot in a movie. There were a few instances, which we will get into in the spoilers, where I just felt like it was open-ended, kind of abrupt, or something that I didn't like, but overall, it was fairly good. One thing I wish was able to happen was that everyone would be able to understand this movie. I think that was a little disappointing to me because I felt like the first one was fairly easy to understand, and this one was too, but I felt that not everyone was able to get the Easter eggs or the secrets or anything that was pinpointed out. And it was mainly a movie for the fans. And trust me, I love the fan service. I mean, again, we'll talk about it in my spoiler section, but holy cow, there was some things that blew my mind. That's all I'm gonna say. And I completely understand why critics would rate it such a low score, because honestly, as a FNAF fan, it was awesome. Critics may be like, okay, what's going on? What is this? Who's the toy animatronics? Why are the Wizards here? Who's the puppet? X, Y, and Z. So I completely understand why, as well as the rough plot or so. But as a FNAF fan, it was just amazing. So, yeah. So, let's start off with the spoilers. I thoroughly enjoyed the opening scene, especially with the puppet and how Charlotte Emily, the daughter of Henry Emily, who is in the movie, by the way, played by Skeet Ulrich, dies. And I really love that opening scene with the puppet where she falls through the floor and the puppet grabs her. It was just so amazing. And Matthew Lillard in that scene, as well as the rest of the movie when he was in it, was just so amazing. You cannot beat that performance from Matthew Lillard. The animatronics were pretty much one-to-one from the games. I loved the toy animatronics. You can't beat those. Their designs are so cool, especially Mangle. I loved that. I also loved the Wizards. Again, they were almost accurate to what the games were, so huge props to the Jim Henson Creature Shop for making those. I also enjoyed the scene in the movie where Mike had to face off against the withered animatronics by wearing the mask. I will say, though, that the whole Foxy scene, where he was kind of shifting between getting all the animatronics shut down and defending himself against Foxy, was kind of but it was really cool that, gameplay was used in this movie. I just thought that was amazing. The pizzeria is spectacular. I mean, director Emma Tammy, Scott Cawthon, and Blumhouse knew what they were doing when they built a huge, grandiose pizzeria. I mean, the boat ride, the arcade games, the stage, the puppet room, the canals. It was just so big, man. It was crazy. Something I also really liked was how they put horror in this movie. The marionette is 10 times scarier than the games. And if you thought that the marionette was already creepy in the games, this version of the marionette in the movie, I was spooked. That's all I'm gonna say. I loved Vanessa's dream sequences. They were probably, if not one of the best parts of the film, and I wish there were more of them. Onto the Easter eggs, there were actually quite a lot. There were 2 cameos, Corey X. Kenshin, again, the cab driver. He made another appearance. And Doug, bro. Doug, the goat from the first film, he made an appearance and he's like, "You need a lawyer?" At the very beginning of the film, there were 3 arcade machines that were shown. One of them on the far left being Fnaf World, the one next to it being Pop Goes, and the one on the far right being Candies, which were really cool Easter eggs to see. Circus Baby coming out of left field was crazy. Like, as soon as I saw that, I freaked out, bro. I was just mind blown. Of course, you had the Shadow Bonnie appearance, which was for 1 millisecond, so a lot of people didn't catch it, but that was really cool to see. The Michael Afton reveal was also crazy, and I kind of liked where his villain arc was going. Unfortunately, it didn't last long though, so. The Ballora in the music box was also pretty cool. And last 2 Easter eggs, first one being the end credits scene of Springtrap reactivating, which again is William Afton inside the suit. That was awesome. Some circuitry went off with the water and it brought him back to life. The other one being Henry's end credit speech at the very end of the credits, which not many people stayed for, so it's awesome. I don't think I have the full audio clip here and I don't think I can play it for copyright reasons, but it was cool to understand that Henry Emily was William Afton's business partner, and it sheds some light onto who his character was, because I felt like he was left out of the movie a lot. And of course, the "We Are Fnaf" moment at the very end of the movie. I know it's cringe, I get it, but I gotta be honest, that was the dopest thing that happened in the theater, especially when all the original animatronics from the first movie came back and destroyed the toy animatronics. Insane. It was crazy. Now, let's get on to the critiques. While the "We Are Fnaf" moment at the very end of the film was awesome, it was sort of abrupt, and I didn't really like that it was just boom, they're done. I felt like the toy animatronics were actually gonna kidnap Vanessa, Abby, and Michael. The Mike Afton reveal was cool, and I loved that they were setting him up to be the villain of the series, but when they revealed that Springtrap was alive and that Michael Afton ran away, it sort of either dumbed him down as a villain and made him seem like he wasn't a villain at all because he was trying to rebuild his father's legacy. But on top of that, you have those 2 villains, and then the puppet possesses Vanessa, and now Vanessa's a villain. So you have 3 villains for the next film, which I didn't really like, and I felt like it was just so it was just so abrupt, and they left it on a cliffhanger, and now there's 3 villains, which again you can work around by saving Vanessa and maybe having Michael Afton redeem himself, leaving the only true antagonist being William Afton, aka Springtrap. But clearly they're setting it up for a 3rd movie. Another scene at the very beginning, even though it was just such an impactful scene with Charlie getting murdered, I really disliked how the parents ignored Charlie when she was trying to tell them there's a kid in danger and we need to help him. All the parents seemed to just ignore her like it wasn't a big deal. I disliked that Skeet Ulrich, who was playing Henry Emily in the movie, wasn't really shown except for one scene, and again, Matthew Lillard, the same thing. They just were the stars of the show in some sense, and they kind of got stripped from the movie a lot, and it really made me upset that we didn't get to know more from Henry. He just was in a scene and then he was like, "I'm a bad parent." And then he doesn't show up the rest of the movie, and then he's in the end credit speech. So yeah. I also didn't like the dynamics between Vanessa and Mike Schmidt, because both of them were actually really good in the movie, and I felt like at the beginning Vanessa dissed Mike, and then Mike had to work with Vanessa, and she's like, "Oh, you can't trust me, but you may as well work with me," and she's not being completely honest with him. And then at the very end, he's like, "I don't want to see you anywhere near me or Abby ever again," and blah, blah, blah. And he kind of dissed her. And it just kind of felt like it wasn't really truly a dynamic or a connection between the two, versus the first movie where they seemed like a love interest, or at least they were working to build up to be friends. But yeah, the only 2 complaints I had for the animatronics was you didn't really get a lot of speaking parts from Toy Freddy and Toy Bonnie. It was mainly Toy Chica as Megan Fox, but also the fact that a few of the animatronics were a little undershadowed, so not all of them were in the spotlight, and it was mainly Toy Chica. But overall, each of the characters were good. So, what did I think of the movie? I thought it was pretty good. I'd recommend that you go watch it. Personally, listening to critics may not be the best reason as to why you shouldn't go see a movie, because sometimes they might be wrong. It doesn't mean they are wrong in any way, shape, or form, but always go do something for yourself or see something for yourself if you're not 100% sure. As a fan of the series, I loved it, and I can't wait for the third one, which they're setting up, by the way. So that Michael Schmidt versus Springtrap, bro, you know I'm watching that. But anyway, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you so I know what your thoughts were on the movie, and I will see you guys in the next video.